this is Maheen, and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today, we're talking about something almost every business owner is wrestling with right now, which is AI. Where does it actually help your business, and where is it just expensive hype? We'll just get into how to avoid wasting money on AI you don't need, how to test an idea before you build it, and how small businesses can get senior product expertise without a full-time hire. Joining us is Kyle Lubieniecki, the founder and AI product lead at Fractional Studio. Kyle is an elite B2B SaaS product veteran who has spent the last decade taking tech platforms from initial concept through high velocity initial public offerings, helping drive over 150 million in ARR through structured product led growth systems. Moving past complex technical jargon, his firms delivers on demand fractional leadership and rapid AI alignment strategies that are designed to help Canadian founders map out exactly where automation drives business margin and where it doesn't. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest and dive in. Kyle, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show this afternoon. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited for our conversation.
Absolutely. And we are also very excited to delve into the topics and really begin our conversation by understanding like how do we cut through this AI FOMO and hype? Because Kyle, an incredibly common point of failure for small and mid-sized businesses right now is rushing to integrate advanced machine learning models out of pure fear of falling behind, completely failing to look at their own consumer pipelines first. Tell us, is AI FOMO justified? And how can small businesses adopt AI strategically?
Yeah, great question. I see this a lot, and I think that the FOMO, the fear, is definitely real. But I definitely think that fear is coming from looking at the wrong thing. So I think owners think about the barrier being the technology, the models, the tools, knowing the buzzwords, and really it almost never is. It goes back to the basics. That really the businesses winning by using AI right now aren't the ones with the fanciest tech, but rather the ones who really understood their own problem first, what's eating their team's time, what customers keep asking, and really they pointed a simple tool and solution at those problems. Um, a mental model I use with every client is really like before we spend a dollar on AI, you really need to understand the job you're actually trying to do and what you're hiring the AI for. There's a framework called really jobs to be done. And the idea is that people don't buy a product, they hire a product to make progress on a specific job. And your AI initiatives are the same. So you shouldn't be asking, should I use AI? You should rather ask, what job am I trying to get done? And is AI really the best tool for it? Half the time, the answer is really just using a spreadsheet or adding a phone call to your process, and that's completely fine. The second really model is what we call kind of like the AI hierarchy of needs. So before all the flashy stuff at really the top being things like custom models and AI agents, you really need the boring foundation at the bottom, which is things like clean data, clear process, and someone on your team who really understands the workflow so that then you can build the systems on top of those foundations. Skipping to the top is really like buying a race car before you've even paved the road, or it's really putting the cart before the horse. And so strategic really just means starting at the bottom of that pyramid, um, with the problem, with the data, and working your way up. And so something you could kind of do right now if you're listening, and thinking about how AI can be applied to your business is, before you evaluate any tool, ask yourself, or state, I'm hiring AI to do X. And if you can't formulate that full sentence, you're probably in a silly situation where AI might not be the right solution for you right now. And that's kind of like a way that I'm seeing um, the FOMO play out, and really how we're bringing more of a realistic view into some of these small businesses that are in that FOMO and panic mode.
That approach completely clarifies the modern product landscape, and it's important that we understand that workflow design it beats raw technology and it ensures that we invest exclusively in our systems that our teams will actually use. Now, Kyle, let's look at concrete example of this rule in action and discuss the classic mistake of building complex software for simple problem. Tell us, what did your chatbot audit reveal about solving the right problems first?
Yeah, so we see chatbots everywhere now. We see SMS available through our mobile phones as well, and we see those chatbots becoming more intelligent. But I'll kind of give you an example of how this played out. So, a client was completely set on building a custom AI chatbot. They saw that a competitor had one. It looked modern. They were really ready also to spend real money. But before writing a line of code, I ran what's basically a contact reason analysis. So, that sounds fancy, but really what it means is that you take the last 100 customer messages that you've received across emails, tickets, DMs, and sort them into buckets about what they have been asking about. And here's the thing, nowadays you don't even need a data team or a data scientist for this type of work. This can be done yourself through um, leveraging just like ChatGPT or Claude. And basically, so what you can do is export. What we ended up doing is exporting that information into Claude and got Claude to cluster the questions. And um, when we did that, really the vast majority were the same handful of questions, covering hours, returns, order statuses, and really a clear FAQ and two small process fixes really handle all of those questions. So what we were able to do is just put those questions on the FAQ page, and that alleviated a lot of the incoming messages and saved our client a significant amount of money. I'm going to repeat that. Um, I- so a clear FAQ and two small processes. Sorry. Let me rephrase that.
No
A clear
problem.
FAQ and two small process fixes handle them. So to get to the real root cause, I used a simple technique. It's the 5 whys. You ask yourself why 5 times until you hit the actual cause instead of assuming the pain is actually the symptom. And in this case, the symptom was really customers keep messaging us and we need to fix this. But really the root cause of this by doing the analysis was that the team's website never actually answered the 3 questions that were commonly being asked. And so um, really no chatbot fixes, just a simple good FAQ on the website. We implemented the FAQ. It alleviated a handful of the messages that were coming through, and we were able to save our client a significant amount of money and headache by building this fancy AI custom chatbot.
Mm-hmm. That's an eye-opening reality check for any executive team because fixing a broken underlying workflow with a clear FAQ, it saves such an incredible amount of capital and outperforms generic AI integrations every single time. Now, Kyle, let's transition into the corporate talent market and analyze how smaller teams can access elite product leadership without massive salaries. Tell us, how does fractional product leadership help companies access expert guidance affordably?
A great product and AI leader, someone who can really work with some business to tell you what to build, what to buy, and what to ignore, is expensive and genuinely hard to find in Canada. Full-time hires really require a serious salary, and a lot of small businesses don't have the budget, or do they even need that person full-time? They need them for really a handful of urgent decisions that actually matter and can help push the business forward. So fractional means really that you rent that judgment and expertise and intuition from that expert to help with those decisions, and then allow them to step back. So maybe this is for a 2-week project, maybe it's for a few hours a month. You really get that senior experience without carrying that massive senior salary. And really the difference between working with an agency or a firm is around the incentive. So an agency mostly gets paid to build. So if you ask for a chatbot, you're going to get a chatbot. A fractional partner really works with you and is paid to give you the right answer, even when that answer might be not to build or move forward with the project. And I kind of want to explain a little bit more what that judgment you're renting actually means more concretely. So I think a lot of it is prioritization. intuition and experience, really knowing what to do first. And there are really simple frameworks that any owner can use. The one I reach for most with small teams is like ICE scoring. So for each idea that you might have in terms of implementing AI, you can score these ideas based on ICE. So what this is looking at is the level of impact, the confidence that you have within that idea, and the ease of implementation. And then you're able to sort and prioritize your list of projects. Bigger teams that I've been involved with typically use a version called Rice, and that requires a bit more rigor. And ultimately, I use also on top of this a plain effort versus impact matrix. So like a 2 by 2, looking at high impact, low effort. Really, those initiatives go first, and low impact and high effort you will end up just killing. And so it sounds obvious, but this prioritization layer is often rarely seen within small businesses where they have plotted their AI ideas onto it. And typically, as we talked about before, they're chasing that shiny high effort project and end up stalling on the project because they haven't taken on those quick wins. And so that's kind of a tactical way for the audience to learn how to apply this prioritization technique within their business.
Well, these on-demand executive models, they offer a brilliant blueprint for resource allocation and sizing out high-level strategy from permanent company overhead. It lets small firms access elite market judgment right when they need it most. So this was a great understanding into how can a fractional product leadership on a small business, how can we achieve that for on a small business budget? Now let's address the exact guardrails non-technical owners should put in place before they buy or build any software. Um, Kyle, how can non-technical owners validate AI ideas before investing?
Yeah, great question. And I'll say just like one rule is always validate before you build. And that's something that has I've carried throughout my career and still strongly believe in. And there are really kind of like real name techniques for how you can do this cheaply. They really come from the product and startup practices from like leading tech companies, but they also work just as well for, a small HVAC company as it would work for a tech company. The first, as an example, would be like the concierge MVP. This is kind of sometimes called the Wizard of Oz test. And really, it's the idea that before you automate anything, you do it manually, you do it by hand, and you do it behind the scenes. So um, the customer may just see the result, but you're ultimately handling the work behind the scenes before you automate it. And so, for example, say you want an AI that, writes customer quotes and to send out to customers. You don't want to build this yet. So for 2 weeks, you could write down the quotes yourself using ChatGPT on your website, have a quote request form, and do this behind the scenes. If customers love the faster quotes that you're providing, and you see value here, now you know that demand is real, and you are kind of like exactly understanding how AI could behave because you're going through the process yourself, and because you've been within the process and using the AI. It's a really cheap research approach that can be applied, and to understand that you can then automate a specific process. The second example might be a what you'd call like a fake door or a smoke test. So example might be putting a call to action on your website, like get an instant quote button on your website, and measuring how many people click it before you've actually built anything in the back end. And here again, you're testing the demand, you're validating the demand, and you're not building the code. If nobody clicks, you just saved yourself a full build and a lot of money. And when you actually talk to customers, then there's a great reference in a book that I'll name The Mum Test. And the whole idea around this is um, being able, sorry, I'm going to mention
No
this one
problem.
again. And and when you actually talk to customers, there's a great book I'll reference. It's called The Mum Test. And really, the whole idea here is to ask people about their real past behavior and not their opinions. So don't ask them, hey, do you like this or would you use this? They're typically going to say yes. Instead, get them to walk through the last time they had this problem, get them to talk about their experience by thinking backwards and understanding how they may have actually solved this problem or ran into that problem before. And really, the thread through all of this is pretty simple. You want to put a human in the loop first and prove that the problem is real before you do any automation. So I'd say those are some ways that you can really bring in validation techniques before you actually go about investing in your AI ideas.
That some completely simplifies the software vetting process for our business community, keeping our focus anchored on direct user utility, which stops our firm from getting burned by short-lived software updates. So thank you for highlighting that, Kyle. Now let's turn this framework into an immediate roadmap for our listeners to test out this quarter. Tell us, what's the first AI action a business can take with limited time and budget?
Yeah, this is a great question, and really, I'd say there's three steps within 30 minutes that people can do without spending any money. And step one here is really a task audit. So this is um, really a process whereby for 1 week, just jot down every repetitive task and every question that customers ask more than twice. Just capture it. Don't filter out different requests and tasks. Here, you're really hunting for the work that's coming up that's frequent and really requires low judgment. And that's really the sweet spot for AI solutions. So ensure that you just start by tracking. The next step would then be leveraging that ICE framework that I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, which is looking at each task's impact if it were to be solved, your confidence in being able to solve it, and the ease of implementation in solving it. And by prioritizing your tasks that way, you can essentially get a list of requirements on your AI investment or where you should start investing. And I'd say a great way to then move into actually leveraging AI from here in the third bucket is working with AI as your thought partner through this process and maybe leveraging some different tools like ChatGPT or Claude. I think of AI tools across three different buckets. One is the AI assistants. So these are ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. These are really great for drafting, summarizing, and analyzing so that you could leverage one of those tools to analyze your list. And then two is the world of agents and automation. So tools like Zapier and Make that move information between apps and agents that get access to different apps. And then the third is really around custom tooling around your own files. Uh, Oftentimes, I see a lot of small businesses succeeding with just those first two buckets and not needing to move into custom tools.
I know that really provides an extraordinary, scannable, practical starting line for our audience, Kyle. And there's absolutely no doubt that documenting our team's most repetitive, slow tasks, it highlights the exact spot to look for simple software options. Now let's move directly to our final wrap up together. One last piece of strategic guidance for our audience. Tell us, beyond the tech shifts of 2026, what's your top recommendation for building a resilient, tech-enabled small business that grows with clarity?
Definitely. I think it's interesting with a lot of new technologies. We see a lot of people jumping to the shiny object, jumping at what's in the headlines and thinking that that needs to be applied to their business. But the same fundamental product discipline and practice remains true, which is start with the problem, not the technology, and really build a habit of validating before you spend any money. So if I had to give, one discipline, it's really this. It's keep a simple decision log, as I mentioned. And every time you decide to build, buy, or skip something, write one line about what you decided and why. And I think a few weeks later through that process, that log is worth more than any tool because it's how your judgment starts to compound and you understand how tasks within your business could or could not be automated by AI. I think the most resilient businesses, again, aren't the ones that adopt the most AI, but they're the ones that really stayed close to their own problems, their customers' problems, and then only added technology and AI where it earned its place. You don't want to put the cart before the horse, as I mentioned. And so I think if you can do that, you're really ahead of most people already because a lot of businesses are jumping at that shiny object, they're stalling, it's slowing them down. And I think you need to start from your first principles of what's true for your business, what's true for your customers, and really dig into those problems. And if you want help finding where AI fits within your, specific business, that's exactly what we do at Fraction Studio. We even offer a free opportunity audit for AI, which is a short, no commitment way to get a clear picture before you spend any money on anything big. And so you can learn more about that at fractions.studio/SMB.
That was a spectacular final reminder that true corporate resilience, it really relies on redefining the problem before we reach or search for the tool, validating that every workflow before writing code and leveraging fractional expertise to de-risk your growth decisions are very important. Thank you so much, Kyle, for joining us and for sharing such great expertise and your insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
And listeners, that was Kyle from Fraction Studio on how to cut through the AI hype, test ideas before you build them, and build in senior product expertise without the full-time cost. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. And to learn more about how we're supporting the ecosystem, please visit Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smbfoundation.ca. A special shout out to UPS and ADP for their ongoing commitment. Please join us next week as we explore our next critical business topic. Until next time, please keep innovating and keep growing.